Good afternoon. Welcome back to the final session of Array Festival 2021. What a week it's been. We've absolutely really crystallised all the fantastic, well, no, I say all, we've actually scratched the surface. There's so much innovation going on in this city, so much fantastic work around digital tech, supporting the businesses. And we've brought you a bit of it, but there's so much more. And what a great week it's been. ElecTech Monday, Digital and Tech Tuesday, Low Carbon, and today it's this day of inspiration. We had a great, fantastic networking session this morning. And now we have got an afternoon of lightning talks. Real fantastic stories of Lancastrians, people in our region that have done some incredible things over the last 12 months. Despite the backdrop of the pandemic, they've kept going, they've kept innovating, they've created, and we're really fortunate to have just a handful of those stories, and I cannot wait to hear them all. So as always with these sessions, the ICS team, thanks for their headline sponsorship. They're in the breakout room, so go and say hello if you need any advice, want any support. But do please tune in, listen to these conversations, listen to these presentations, because I think they're just going to be absolutely fabulous. So please use the chat box, go in there, ask your questions to us. We'll relay them back to the speakers as well. It's going to be really simple, 5 minutes presentation, very quick. A couple of questions at the end, and then on to the next one. We're here, you've got us for a couple of hours, and it's going to be just fabulous. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over now to our first presenter, Nicola Mortimer from Tech Lancaster. Nicola, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, I'm Nicola. I work for Milliamp Technologies, but I'm also the Programme Manager for Tech Lancaster, and that's what I want to just give you a quick talk about this afternoon. Let you know what Tech Lancaster is, what we've achieved over the last 6 months, and what we plan to do next. So Tech Lancaster is basically a group of people, a group of local electronics companies that got together because we saw that there was a really big need for upskilling people in our sector. We've been complaining for years that we really struggle to recruit people into our industry, and when we do recruit people in, there's a lot of training needs that still need to be undertaken. And rather than just continue to complain about this fact, we decided to do something about it. So we applied for some funding from the DCMS, and we were awarded the funding last year. So we really did have to do something about it. Alongside creating the training course, we also wanted to raise the profile of the ElecTech sector, which the Array Festival this week has been fantastic in helping us to further promote the ElecTech sector. But we also wanted to let people know what kind of jobs there are available in the electronics industry and the wealth and the breadth and depth of those jobs that are there. So I'll just give you a quick flavour of who the industry consortium is. It's 6 local companies that all have electronics specialisms. Many of these companies you've heard from during this during this festival this week. They've been in some of the panel events and some of the Q&As. And so I won't labour the point as to what we do, but we all love what we do and we all want to spread the word about ElecTech. So what we've achieved and what we set out to achieve is create a 12-week programme, training program, which contained an online learning module, but then it also had to have an element of practical learning in there as well, and that was really important for us because many of the jobs in the electronics industry are very hands-on and they're very practical, so we wanted to reflect that in the training course that we put together. So we had 6 months, and during this 6 months period, we solely designed, built and delivered this training course. We had no previous experience of doing this. We're just 6 electronics companies that got together to solve this problem, and yeah, here we are today. We advertised the course, and we were overwhelmed by the level of interest in there. We thought we would struggle to get 100 people on the course, but we ended up with over 130. I think it's 136 people started the course. So we were overwhelmed by the level of interest. We said that nobody needed to have any prior experience in the electronics sector, just a really positive can-do attitude and a willingness to give it a go. One of the key things for this training course was that if you completed it, if you got to the end of it, then you were guaranteed an interview with one of the consortium companies. And we're in that process now of giving people interviews that completed the course. So this is just a few pictures from the training course. We were quite concerned with the pandemic that we wouldn't be able to run the practical element of the course, but we did manage to squeeze it in right at the end. So at the end of March and April, we ran these small group sessions down at Northern High Tech in Lancaster. We managed to put together an electronics lab in under 2 weeks to be able to take this course to our participants. The main thing about this course was that it allowed us to do internationally recognised certifications, IPC certifications, and we got over, I think it was 65 certifications in 6 weeks. So we really have raised the level of skill and competence in electronics in this area. The other great thing about hosting it at NHT Electronics was the fact that they actually got to see an environment, electronics environment, and break down a few of those stereotypes of what it's like to train and work within an electronics environment. And everybody that went on the course reported back that they found it a fantastic experience, so we were really encouraged by their comments. So the results were over 100 people started the course, over 60 people completed the course. The participants included upskilling our own workforce as well as mainly career changers coming in who wanted to try a new career. We've learned that we knew that we had gender diversity problems in the electronics sector, but we didn't realise quite how bad they were. So we're working on trying to address those. We've already managed to place 10 people into employment before the course even finished. We're now hearing really positive stories of people coming back and saying, I've managed to find a job and thank you so much. So that really does make it all quite worthwhile. So what's next? Well, we've learned that gender diversity and ethnic diversity is a real problem in our sector. So we are now working with Lancaster University Management School to try and see if we can do anything to address that. We're also collaborating with the local Chamber of Commerce to see if there's anything that we can do on the local skills improvement plans, see if there's any learnings that we can take forward and help in the future. We want to continue to raise awareness of ElecTech, and thank you to the Array Festival this week for providing a fantastic platform for us to do that. And we want to try and convert the course that we've already done to give it a signposting option for people that are leaving school this year, particularly this year, because they've been so disrupted as to potential careers and roles in electronics. And if there's something that we can do to help steer them onto a path to electronics, then it will benefit us all. Eventually, we'd love to turn that into a Trailblazer apprenticeship, but that's some way off. But yeah, it's been an interesting 6 months for sure. It's allowed people to sort of give them something to work towards in what has been a really difficult period for lots of people. It's allowed them to channel their creativity and their positivity into an area where you can turn an idea into something real. You can make a real difference. We can use some of our skills to apply them to these massive challenges that we've got, like decarbonisation and transition to net zero. And that gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling, but it's actually tangible. We can do it now. And so that's a real positive for this area. And most of all, I'd quite like to get back to my day job at Milliamp, because we've done this all on top of running electronics companies. So I never thought I'd hear myself say this, and please don't tell my business partner Rich, but for now I would quite like to get back to running an electronics company, but not for too long, because I really have enjoyed this, and I think there's great potential in the future for continuing this Tech Lancaster journey. So thank you.
Just quickly, summarise in a few words, Nicola, what is ElecTech? What impact can it have?
ElecTech is all the systems that underpin. It's really difficult. It's a really difficult concept to grasp, but it's the bits that make stuff work. So, if you've got a mobile phone and you see the nice shiny bits on the outside and you can play with it, but ElecTech is the actual things that make that phone work, what make the computers work, what the gadgets and the electronics behind everything. And it's so widespread that it's quite difficult to define. But it's taking concepts and ideas and making them real.
Is there like a particular hub of ElecTech in Lancaster? Because it's interesting, as a city this size, you've got these 6 companies working together. Is there something happening here in Lancaster around that?
So electronics companies tend to be small SME companies. We don't tend to be particularly big, and so we kind of fly under the radar quite a lot. Though we do make up about 6% of the UK GDP, so it is quite a big sector. But the Bay Area as a whole is quite an attractive area to locate as an electronics company, particularly in the South Lakes area and Lancaster. We find that we work together really well because we all have elements of electronics in what we do, but we all apply them in slightly different ways. So we've got a lot of companies that support the defence sector or the nuclear sector or the transition to net zero, and so we can collaboratively work together without treading on each other's toes, if that makes sense. And we're all slightly different in nature. Milliamp Technologies, who I work for, we're predominantly contractors. We design for other people, and we're predominantly designers, but there are others like Northern High Tech who are mainly manufacturers. And OTAC and Forsberg kind of have their own products. So we're all slightly different, but that's what makes us a great team, because we all bring different ideas and different styles to the collaboration.
Thanks, Dan, for the introduction. I'm Steve Simpson, Head of IT and Digital for Lancaster City Council and also Wyre Council, 2 neighbouring ones. One's that's incredibly urban, one that's incredibly rural. So there's contrasting viewpoints and things there. What I want to talk to you about today is the Lancaster City digital strategy. And up until 2019, the council had no view, no real expertise or strategy in where they wanted to get to. The first thing that we did was created a digital strategy to look at how we can develop the district in terms of connectivity, digital skills, innovation. But we actually put all that together and got it signed off by the council in October 2019. We launched it just pre-pandemic, February 2020. Really well received throughout the districts and things, and then the pandemic hit, so we pulled back a little bit from there. But the whole strategy is built around a couple of complementary viewpoints. You've got on the one side, you've got what we've termed the 3 C's of connectivity, change and collaboration. On the opposing side, you've got technology, health, innovation, nature and knowledge. And for every C, there has to be a complementary letter from the THINK acronym. And what we've tried to do is develop the strategy and our objectives to make the district the smartest, the cleanest, the greenest it can possibly be. And we're addressing a lot of the council's objectives in terms of driving the climate emergency. What can we do in terms of delivering green services throughout the district? So some of the things we're looking at there aren't, we class them as not particularly sexy, but when you actually look at it in terms of smart bins and things like that, where it monitors how full an actual bin is. And then we plan our route around the district to empty these bins based on the knowledge that we're actually collecting from the bins. And we're actually now taking that to the next level and looking at what else we can do with IoT. So we've had discussions with Milliamp around what we can actually do in terms of proof of concept. And that kind of leads to a lot of other discussions around connectivity in terms of LoRaWAN. What can we do in terms of that? We know that full fibre, which is one of our aspirations, is the fundamental starting point for 99% of what we actually want to achieve. But we're also not stupid enough to forget that there are other complementary technologies and connectivities out there. So full fibre absolutely is one of the priorities. And we're going through the sign-off now in terms of rolling out the design for about 88, 89 kilometres of additional fibre throughout the district. And that is going to deliver connectivity to the boundaries of business parks, to council assets, to bizarrely car parks, but that allows us then to start to make car parks smart, and we can then start to look at EV charge points in there and a lot of other really good stuff within there. So connectivity, absolutely fundamental to what we want to do. And we joined a cooperative called CNI, Cooperative Network Infrastructure, and they open doors to public and private sector partners that want to either invest or gift their fibre assets into a collective, which makes rollout of fibre for us a hell of a lot cheaper and a lot quicker. So for us, it's going to be a 6-month build instead of a 3-year build, which is what it could potentially be. So there's massive benefits on that. Other areas that we've looked at around innovation, and innovation means a lot to a lot of different people. We've created a digital strategy board, and within there we've got key business owners, we've got elected members from the council, and we've actually got the business owners and the district now to really own that digital strategy board. So it's no longer seen as a board that Steve created, it's now seen as the digital board for the district. And we can share how you can become involved in that afterwards and things. But there are 3 main work streams as part of that. Connectivity, talked about that, we'll park that to one side. You've got innovation, and we've got digital inclusion, exclusion, whichever way you want to look at it. So I know Claire Louise Chapman will be talking around digital inclusion later on, and she's the work stream lead for that. So that for us is about removing the digital exclusion within the district. Pandemic's shown that there are masses of people digitally excluded, whether you're kids trying to homeschool, whether you're people that have recently been made redundant, whether you're people that have been furloughed and decide you want a change of career. And there's the older generation that want to know how to do online banking and things like that. So there's a whole raft of skills. So I'll let Claire Louise talk about that in more detail afterwards. In terms of innovation, that's one where we, as an organisation, as the council, and it applies across the board, we don't know everything. And it might be a shock to people that the council doesn't know everything, but we don't. So innovation is there for the district to really innovate for us and show us what we want to, show us the future. And I think in terms of that, we're a long way along the journey in terms of getting the foundations in place. And it's just now where we actually want to take it in the future and things. So I think as a quick summary, that's where we are in terms of digital strategy. So over to questions, over to Dan. Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because you said that the council doesn't know everything and doesn't know all the answers, which is obviously true for all of us. Yeah. So how much are you factoring in a two-way flow of information in terms of pulling this strategy together?
Okay, in terms of the two-way flow, that was one of the fundamental reasons for creating the digital strategy board. So we had experts from around the district, but we're also engaging a lot of other different partners. So we're doing work with the university to be led on research and things around the district, around the UK. But we're also looking for contributions from people in the district that really want to contribute. So we've got these work streams, and we're getting work stream heads, and then they're then going to go out and speak to people and trying to garner opinion on, right, is this the right way of doing things or not? IoT is one example where we want to put a proper sensor ethics program in place where we understand what's acceptable for people in the district, what's really acceptable for us to, as a district, not as a council, as a district to be looking at in terms of technology and things. So we're getting the foundations in place, and then we'll go out and speak to a lot more people.
So a quick supplementary question would be, what are your data input nodes from the community? I mean, how will the community actually be able to engage with this and find their way in?
In terms of that, we've got a digital strategy website. And on there's a contact us side of things, so people can share different viewpoints, request involvement, ask questions, and that side of things. We're looking at ultimately in the next couple of months getting the digital strategy board so it meets here, and then we'll after that we'll open it up and say for the next hour and a half afterwards, come along, speak to the members of the board, ask questions, and share your experiences and steer us down a particular route if you want us to go down that route.
Hi, yeah, thank you. My name's Alex Dixon, and I run a business called Morecambe Bay Tours. And what I'd like to tell you about is my journey all the way from Lancaster to Morecambe. And hopefully you'll find it kind of interesting. So, oops, wrong way, there we go. So, when I first left school, and I was kind of trying to decide what I wanted to do, and I wasn't really sure, I ended up taking a job. My first job was working at Boots the Chemist in the centre of Lancaster and selling computer games. And it inspired me to want to pursue a career in IT. And on the back of that, I was able to get to attend a free evening class through Lancashire Adult Education. And on the back of that, I got a place and then attained a degree in computer studies from Leeds Beckett University. And that was also free. So that was very beneficial to me. That enabled me to get a job with Hewlett-Packard. And over the years, I did a number of roles. I started out as an IT consultant. I then became an enterprise software specialist. Then I worked as a technical trainer. And then I became a technical training manager. And eventually, I also started working for LinkedIn at their corporate headquarters as an IT project manager. This enabled me to move from Lancaster to Leeds, to Manchester, to Bracknell, to Dublin, and then to California, to Silicon Valley in San Jose, California, where I lived for 19 years. And strangely enough, that area is called the Bay Area too, and this is the Bay Area here too. While I was doing all these range of jobs, I also got to travel all over the world for work. So I've worked everywhere from Beijing to Moscow to Madrid to Melbourne to Bucharest to Amsterdam, Toronto, Boston, places I never dreamed I would have the opportunity to travel to. But when I decided to move back to Morecambe in 2019, what struck me most of all after travelling all over these places, all over the world, and being away for so long, was what an incredible and unique place Morecambe Bay is. And what I wanted to do then is tell everybody about it and help as many people as possible discover it, explore it, enjoy it, experience it, build wonderful memories exploring this wonderful place. And so that's why, in the middle of the pandemic, I decided to create a new business called Morecambe Bay Tours. And what I also want to mention is I've had some fantastic support here in Lancaster from a wonderful social enterprise organisation called the Growing Club. You'll be hearing from their wonderful leader a little bit later on. But they've been giving me fantastic support launching my own business. And it's also given me the opportunity to give back. So I've been delivering some social media workshops and doing some IT support. So for some of the members of the Growing Club. So I haven't completely moved away from my techie roots. I still get to dabble a little bit. So here's my invitation to you. Morecambe Bay Tours gives you all the opportunity, and your friends and family, to explore this spectacular natural landscape that's literally right on your doorstep. And hopefully I can inspire you today to come and take a look and and take a look around. Sorry, let me just scroll my screen back. No, it's not going back. Oops. Thank you. So Morecambe Bay, just some facts and figures about Morecambe Bay. It's a unique ecosystem. It's the largest intertidal bay in the UK. And 240,000 birds come and visit every year. Some of them fly 18,000 miles from Africa to visit Morecambe, so it must be worth all that effort to get there. It's filled with the most incredible wildlife. Grey seals come and visit. We get the occasional dolphin that gets lost in the bay. And it's, as we've all learnt from the pandemic, getting out in nature and exploring has become so important. It also has a fantastic heritage. So people have been living and creating and innovating and building things in Morecambe Bay for thousands of years, in fact. We even have our own little stone circle over in Ulverston. It really is a truly unique and wonderful place. You can walk all the way around Morecambe Bay, all the way from Barrow right round to Fleetwood, or cycle 70 miles. And there's so much to do and so many places to visit and things to enjoy. And as I said, hopefully I've inspired you a little bit today to come and explore it with us. What I want to also mention is, despite the pandemic, even today, Morecambe is still a very warm, welcoming place. It's very forward-looking, it's very innovative, and we're very hopeful for the future. So hopefully, I invite you to come and book a tour with us, come and take a look around, learn about this fantastic place, and I can't wait to show you. Thank you very much. Anybody has any questions? I don't know if it's going to go to the end. There we go.
In the absence of an answer, this must be backdrop of the pandemic.
Yes.
Work-life balance.
Yes.
Now's the time to come to Morecambe, is it not?
It really is. Yeah. It's, as I said, it's there's so many unique opportunities at the moment, and it's really, we've got this wonderful community of people, very warm, very welcoming, very forward-looking. And sky's the limit really for what we can do. Yes, sorry, you had a question?
As the Eden project is coming up soon,
yeah.
How would your project be a part of the
I'm just saying,
go ahead.
With the Eden project coming up, how is that going to interact with what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been talking with the Eden project. So the opportunity is for me to work with them, to collaborate with them basically, because my tours focus on the history of Morecambe town and the whole sort of area, and also the nature and wildlife. So there's lots of opportunities to collaborate with people coming to the Eden project who then stay on and explore the area. I'm talking with them already. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Anthony. I work for a software company called Malinko. We do scheduling software for district nurses. Now this is quite a techie talk, I guess, so I'll try and kind of broaden it out a little bit. So what we were doing at Malinko, we're using a software development methodology, Kanban. So Kanban is effectively just a board with different statuses. So the most simple way is like to do, doing, done. We've been doing that for many years, and we found what happened is we're thinking in a very short-term way. So we'd have lots of tickets, and there's like tasks to do, and as a result, we were thinking about just the thing that was in front of us, and we weren't thinking about the wider picture and the broader development that we're doing with the software. So what we did is we tried to find another tool, another way of doing it, and we kind of mixed up processes and tools. So Jira is a very well-known tool for software development. It's used for NASA use it, for instance, and it's very complicated, very complex tool, but it's a very powerful tool. It's slow. It's not necessarily intuitive or easy to use, but it does allow you to do many things. We found that we started looking around for other tools because the engineers who were using it didn't like to use it. So, and we came across Basecamp, which is a very simple, lightweight tool. It's very easy to use, but it's also very flexible. It has lots and lots of different options. And also, Basecamp had their own methodology, which was called ShapeUp. And now ShapeUp is a way of thinking about software development, which takes big pieces and you scope them out in a little bit more detail. And so we had a look at the ShapeUp methodology and we tried to apply it to what we were doing. And there's a system where all the teams come up with their own ideas, they shape those ideas, they put them forward to be worked on in the next cycle. Now, this means you've got a lot of energy and lots of effort in writing these pieces of work, but it does mean that you've got lots of people involved in that and you're thinking lots of different elements of that piece of work, whether it's kind of the support team or the engineers or people who are dealing with your customers. But what we found is that ShapeUp for us is very expensive. So everybody's busily coming up with these different ideas, spending lots of time and energy and effort working on them. And then when we put them forward, it's like, okay, we're not going to do that because it doesn't fit in with these other things that we're thinking of. And so there's a lot of energy and effort wasted. We found that actually, due to pressures with our customers, we didn't necessarily have a huge amount of choice about what we need to work on. So we also found that it didn't take into account things like clinical considerations, because we work with district nurses, we work closely with the NHS. We have to think in terms of clinical safety. And so we went away and adapted the ShapeUp process to meet our needs as a small business with the pressures we've got, and actually reduce down the scope for people to come up with all these different ideas. But we kept some of the elements that we liked, which is kind of getting different parts of the company involved in shaping these ideas, and the cycle. So it's an 8-week cycle, thinking about these ideas in the whole. But what we also found is that Basecamp wasn't the right tool. So whilst the ShapeUp process was great, the tool that from the people who came up with that process wasn't right for us. But what we could do is we could take the process and keep the original tool we're using, which is Jira, and basically use it in that way. What we found is that with Jira, there's a lot more traceability. It means you can audit things properly. So we have a clinical safety officer who needs to be able to kind of look at the work we're doing, needs to be able to kind of interact with those pieces of work. And Jira allows us to do that in the way that Basecamp really, really doesn't. And so, I mean, this is supposed to be a lightning talk. I've tried to cover it quite quickly. There's loads of stuff I've not really covered in this, in terms of like what these pictures look like, what that process looks like, how we deal with, we'll call it BAU here, business as usual. So this is the bugs and things that could come up on a day-to-day basis. And then there's also the internal discussion about how we came to those processes, how we made those decisions. And so I'm happy to speak to people on a one-to-one basis about this, or take questions now.
Anthony, thanks for a great talk. Malinko, just tell her, because it's scheduling software for health services, and just explain a little bit, gives a bit of context around.
Sure, yeah. So we work with district nursing teams across the country. So prior to us entering this market, we were working with domiciliary care companies and scheduling carers from going from house to house. What we found is through having conversations with NHS trusts, district nurses had a similar kind of problem, but they were doing this in paper diaries, on spreadsheets, and there was very little kind of visibility, very little. There were no tools in place to help people make that more efficient. So we entered that market, and now we work with probably about 15, 16 trusts across the country now. And the business has pivoted from working with these small SME dom care agencies to working with NHS trusts and helping them solve their problems.
That's incredible, because working in NHS, as anyone knows, tried to, is a challenge in itself. So doing that, just give us some context, because what you've just described there, that is some challenge. What you've just described there, how many people are we talking about kind of using that product, those methodologies that you're describing?
So Jira as a tool is very, very widely used, and it's, as I said, NASA use it, for instance. Basecamp tends to be used by lots of SMEs.
In your team, how many people are we talking about using this?
Involved in
that process, yeah.
So I guess there's 30 people in the company now, and in terms of scoping out work and scoping out pitches, it could be anybody within the company could be involved in one of those. So the way the process works is the ideas can bubble up from anywhere within the company. So somebody in the support team might have a conversation with a customer and hit a particular problem, and they will go, well, let's come up with this idea. Let's see how we can solve it. But then you would need an engineer to be involved in that, somebody within the product team to be involved in that, maybe somebody within the implementation team. So they're cross-functional teams that kind of scope the ideas down. So they can, the product team are the ones who drive it forward.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, next up we are introducing Rachel Lee from Teleport. Rachel, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name's Rachel, and I'm the co-founder of Teleport. And we are a virtual reality company that develops immersive and highly engaging travel apps. Ooh. So that's a picture of me in Scotland last year when we went there to film for our upcoming app, Teleport Scotland. And we basically wanted to build something that allows people to travel without limits. So with VR technology, we can bring Scotland to you wherever you are in the world. So before I actually dive into our story, I just wanted to give you an overview of the VR market. So it's estimated to be worth $571 billion by 2025 with a compound annual growth rate of 63.3%. And this is, of course, accelerated by the pandemic. As we all know, people have been finding different ways to escape their realities without actually leaving their house. And also, by 2025, an estimated 34 million headsets would have been sold worldwide. In the next slide, I'll be showing you a very short reaction video from when we did our pilot with Visit Scotland. So we filmed the Kingdom of Fife, which was the coastline between St Andrews and Edinburgh. And we did a pilot for about a month in North London, Islington.
It's a teleport! Aye, we're actually teleporting, Mum! Oh, yeah! Oh, wow! Wow, I'm going off to sea! Whoa, this is so cool! Whoa! It's so awesome! Whoa! My God!
Very short reaction video of people who came in and tried the experience. So before COVID, we had a different focus. We wanted to address the issue of over-tourism in larger cities such as London. From research, we know that a lot of inbound tourists actually just stay in London and they don't really venture out to the different areas of the UK. So the idea was to feature all these other rural, smaller destinations such as Morecambe, Heysham, put them into the VR headset, make it into like a very interactive experience, and put this headset somewhere highly accessible for all these tourists. So what we did was we took over a British-made phone box, we refurbished it, we gave it a new lick of paint, we took out the phone function, and we put in a VR headset. And this one was done in Upper Street in Islington, and it's the busiest street over there. So we had about 10 minutes engagement time for the contents per person, which in advertising terms is a very, very long time. And on a good day, we have about 100 visitors come in and be teleported to Scotland. So what do we learn from this experience? There's nothing there. But what we learned was basically our contents were intuitive enough so that people could walk along the street, oh, cool phone box, go in, put on the headset, and be teleported instantaneously. We didn't have like a manual or heavy instructions. It was just small prompts within the app itself. Secondly, we found that it was accessible for all types of people, all ages. So we had school children up to elderly people come in and put on the headset and have a great time. And thirdly, that it was highly emotive. It could elicit amazing responses from excitement, as you saw just now, to nostalgia. And also finally, we had returning users coming back, bringing their friends and family or coming back themselves to see if actually we've updated our contents or not. So then the pandemic happened, so we had to shift our focus. So right now we're developing highly immersive and interactive travel apps that are countrywide. So this is a snapshot of the Oculus store, which is essentially the store for the headsets. So each headset has its own operating system. It kind of works like a phone. So on the headset, it has its own app store, just like how an Apple phone has an app store or your Android phone has a Play Store. You'll be able to download apps into the device and experience games. There's YouTube VR as well, so that you can travel as well. So with Teleport, we want to be the pioneering company that develops countrywide apps. So our first app is of Scotland, as I mentioned, and we have a demo now, and the full paid version is expected to come out this month. So how are we unique from these other 15 other travel apps currently in the App Store? So we film our contents in stereoscopic 360 videos and also binaural audio, which means that it's filmed in 3D, so there's a depth perception. You could see things poking out at you. And also binaural audio, which means that you can tell the direction from which the sound is coming from. For example, if you're sat at a train station and a train goes past, you can follow the direction of the sound with your ears. And finally, of course, countrywide content. So our Scotland app will include 40 different locations, North Coast 500, Isle of Skye, and major cities like Glasgow, Edinburgh as well. In the next slide, I'll be showing you a short trailer that we made to launch our Scotland app. So that is a very short snapshot of what you can expect to see in the app. We have plans to build one for England. So if anyone has any contacts with local tourist boards, please send them my way so that we can explore and see how we can support each other. Thank you very much for your time.
I think we're going to have questions. I'm really sorry. We need to move on. Has anyone got any quick questions? Wow. No, I'm going to move us on. But this is happening in Lancaster. This is fantastic, isn't it? Incredible. Once again, Jane, next up, Jane Dalton.
Thanks very much, Dan. I'm Jane. Really great to be part of Array Festival and to share a little bit about what we've been doing for the past year during COVID. We didn't have anything else to do. So in May 2020, Marlu Cornelissen and I set up Global Parlay, a market research agency focused on putting global change makers at the heart of the business model. So what we do is deliver cutting-edge insight into all aspects of sustainable development, aligned with the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. I think we'd obviously seen too much Pirates of the Caribbean during lockdown, so hence Parlay, which is a nod to the pirate terms, I'm sure you're all aware, of trying to find common ground so that both parties might have different agendas, but they can come together in a safe space to share ideas and to find a way forward. Okay, so who are we, first of all? So to give you a bit of background, so Marlo Cornelissen has always worked in the social value sector, heading up organisations like QS World Merit, who are an organisation that incentivise young change makers to set up projects in their own communities. And my background has always been in the commercial sphere, supporting companies who are trying to develop new products and services. And since summer last year, we've been joined by a number of community organisations, but also thanks to one of those, We Make Change, we've also been able to grow our very talented team who are working across the UK. And with the help of organisations like Lancaster University, we've also got people on board like Perry, who's helping us build trade links in countries in Africa, Uganda and South Africa specifically. So what is it we do? Well, to give you an example of the kinds of projects we work on, we're the research partner for Period Reality. So this is a global movement which explores the knowledge and the experience people have around women's reproductive health. It's very new as well, started during the lockdown. And what they're trying to do is explore this territory, and it's very much one of those suggestions that got put forward. Well, let's find out what people know across different markets. So the survey that we ran for them last summer, within 5 days, we'd got 500 responses across 50 different countries. I think we're now up to about 85 countries that we've got response from. And the purpose of that is obviously to start the debate, start a conversation. The topics that we're raising within this are obviously extremely, we've got lots of different audiences who are engaging with this kind of content. So why do we think it's a good idea to be doing this? I'll read through this in a minute, but basically what we're trying to do is build a much more effective bridge between the social value sector and the commercial sector, because we think that's a bit broken at the moment, and that both are perhaps speaking different languages. So for global change makers, people who are developing projects in their own backyards, we want to give them much better access to revenue funding and to support, so they can just get on with doing what they do, and we just add a little bit more oomph and a bit more energy to what they're doing so they can go further and have more impact. For businesses, what we want to do is make it much easier for the willing, it is a coalition of the willing this, to spot good growth opportunities. Those ethical, that green growth opportunities that we've heard a lot about since COVID, we want to make that easier to explore. Okay, so the words that are on the board, it's difficult to go through them all, but it's actually an extract from Mark Carney's book, who's a global economist, ex-governor of the Bank of England, and the book is called Values. And this particular excerpt talks about a visit to the Vatican, as you do, General Friday, and a sort of an event that was held by Pope Francis who put forward a parable to this very illustrious assembled group, and set them almost a challenge that we're hoping that we can contribute towards and do our very own small part of that, which is, talking about the concept of wine as part of a meal. That wine has many components to it. It has flavour, it has an aroma, and it also contains alcohol. And comparing this with grappa as what's much more as a distillation of pure alcohol, much more of a one-dimensional aspect of what grapes can give us. Comparing this with humanity, it talks about the fact that humanity can be lots of different things, but that the market economy is only one aspect of what humanity can do. And in the terms that he talks about, it's been distilled, but what it needs to happen now is for that to be turned back towards humanity. And we're very passionate about that. We want to see more and more companies embracing what it means to be human and to be much more focused on what's going on with sustainable development. So that's why we're in this. To give you a little bit of understanding of what we've managed to do over the past year, so we're very much in the early stages still, but we've already contributed £11,500 in terms of revenue and support services to a range of social value projects who've been involved with us and taken part in our research. So we tried to make that process as simple as possible. And what that means is for people like Sunil, who's running a project in India to educate people, youngsters coming up through and improve the quality of education in his local community, what he said was for each £100 that he gets from contributing to something we're running, that's another 1,000 students that he can get to. So in our view, the knowledge and experience of global change makers has been gravely undervalued, back to Mark Carney's point about what we value. And we feel this is our opportunity to turn that around. Thanks very much for listening.
Jane, incredible. Thank you so much. And again, happening across the world, spanning across the world, all happening from here in Lancaster. So incredible. Claire Louise Chapman, can I invite you up? And guys, we're going to be here at the end, and please, if you've got questions, we're going to move on quickly now, but there's plenty of time at the end. We'll all get together, and you can please do talk to each other and ask questions and mingle and what have you. Claire.
Right, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Claire Louise Chapman, and I'm here to talk about the Laptops for Kids project. I don't have a presentation, I have a small piece of paper. How terribly undigital. It is a miracle they've let me through the door. So anyway, as a in the work capacity, I'm a social value consultant. That essentially means I work with businesses to help them set into place operational processes that benefit people and places. It's a lot less fluffy than it sounds. Anyway, on a voluntary basis, me and a group of other fantastic people, including Dan, got together earlier this year, and we developed a project called Laptops for Kids. So why did we do it? What is it? It's asking people to donate devices, laptops and tablets for which they had no more use. And what we did is we worked with a great company called ICT Reverse, who gifted their time to professionally wipe the data from those devices, and then we passed them on to schools and families that needed the support. The why we did it is because as of January this year, the schools started teaching national curriculum again while children were still at home. So if at that point you did not have access to online learning, you were being significantly disadvantaged. And we already have massive massive gaps in our society between the haves and have-nots, and this project really aimed to try and just do something about it from a really practical perspective. So what we did, it was a real partnership. So there's an amazing organisation called Lancaster and Morecambe Makerspace, and what they did is that they took individual donations of kit, they wiped them and got them back out to schools. I kind of coordinated the process, and the bit that I was more involved with was really looking to talk to businesses to say, come on guys, you've got kit out there, get it to us, think about how you're disposing your assets. There's fantastic opportunities around the circular economy agenda, which we were talking about a day or so ago. Get them to us, we get it professionally wiped so you don't have to worry about data. I use the example of Sellafield, the nuclear power station is doing this. If a nuclear power station can do this, anybody can do this. And basically, so we got everything in, and we went to the schools. So I was talking to the schools and saying to the schools, what do you need? We were massively worried about operating systems. Seriously, for the last few months, I have just breathed this project, and I am not a digital person, so my learning curve was ridiculous. I didn't even know what an operating system was in January. And I'm actually, I still don't really know what an operating system is, to be honest. But anyway, we got over that. The schools we found had enough IT support in-house. We couldn't buy operating systems because Windows as a commercial organisation would cost us about 120 quid a piece, but the schools can access them really cheap. But then of the schools, as little primary school actually got the IT capability to get the operating system on, because I'm really conscious that, the last thing a school needs is for us to do half a job, because you're actually just creating a school even more work. So we really tried to think about the process, as a project life cycle, beginning beginning to end. We really need to be giving the beneficiaries something that's workable. And then I got donated a load of PCs, which was slightly outside of project scope because we've been told the schools wanted laptops and devices because a lot of families don't have the room to put a PC. So I can't remember how many PCs now. Anyway, quite a few. I think it was about 12 in the end. So I thought, well, let's get those out to charities, because the one thing I do know about charities is that they have to beg, borrow and steal pretty much anything they need. So for a charity, the opportunity to have access to PCs for their offices. So charities really struggle to find the money for their running costs because people love to fund projects, but it's a lot less sexy to fund like the rent or the water bill. So it's, it's kind of understanding what we need in society, and what, charities and social purpose organisations are so important because they're the people that support the most disadvantaged and vulnerable people in our society. So, I kind of just think we've got a lovely system here, and if we just all work together and we can make it all link up, and it's been a fantastic project, and we've got hundreds, I can't remember, I should be able to tell you the figures, but we've got literally hundreds of laptops and tablets and PCs out to schools and families and refugee charities and mental health charities, and cancer care got some, and it's, I've got Kurdish family waiting on a laptop at the minute. And what happened is we ran the project between January and March, and then it was supposed to finish because it's all voluntary and I have a real job sometimes. But kind of people just kept ringing. So I've still got laptops coming in, and I think the main thing that I need to say at this point is, if you're sitting there and you have a laptop or a tablet or even a PC for that matter, please can you get in touch with me, because I would really like it, because digital disadvantage hasn't gone away just because kids have gone back to school, and I've still got schools and I've still got charities that desperately need this kit. And my other ask is, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, that sounds quite interesting, will you also please get in touch, because what I'm trying to do is build a community of people who actually care about this and are interested in this and would like to work together to try and make a difference for the district. And the more brains, the better. And I'd really like to hear from you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Claire Louise was a driving force in that wonderful project. So well done. Thank you, Claire Louise. From one driving force to another, Jane Binion.
Hello, I'm Jane Binion. I'm the founder and MD of the Growing Club, which is just over there in Alston House. And we grow women. But I didn't grow this woman. This is my mum. My mum left school at 14 to go and work in a factory. Her big dream was to be a hairdresser, but that wasn't an option for a girl that had to support the family household. Also, with my mum leaving school at 14, she thought that meant she was thick, which is a myth that is spread widely, by the way. But the reason I'm showing you my mum is because 50 years ago, half a century ago, I stood in the co-op with my mum in Warsaw, where we're from. And she got to check out and she hadn't got enough money to pay for her groceries. Now, that wasn't the first time, but I'd reached the age where I felt her humiliation. And the worst thing about that story is that it still happens today. It hasn't gone away. I was lucky enough to benefit from social mobility, innovations, if you will. So I got to go to university and with a full grant. Sorry about that, young students. But one of the issues that I'm finding all the time is women, just like me, working class women with a degree, with education, still find themselves in poverty at some point, because it isn't just about education. There are lots of other things going on. So in 2009, I found myself as a single mom living on benefits after a shoulder injury. We were living on £80 a week. Because of my injury, my options were low paid work, that was it. And so I started a small business in 2010 from my home. And that took me on this journey of starting the Growth Club, which and we are inspired by Sustainable Development Goal 8.3, which is decent work. Now, you all know about the gender pay gap, but do you know that actually the biggest gap is between highest paid women and lowest paid women? Because around gender equality, we've been looking at the glass ceiling. That's where our attention has been. We forgot to look at the women on lowest pay. During lockdown, we did really well. We got our work online within a week. We worked with 400 women, and we created paid work for 40 women. We also set up our first e-learning course, and our startup course is being launched in June. But with all innovation, there are people left behind, and unfortunately it's often the same people that get left behind. We work really hard to be inclusive and adapt our work, but at the end of the day, if you don't have Wi-Fi, if you run out of data, or if there's only one device in your home that you have to share with other members of the household, self-development will fall off women's agenda every time. We're a holistic organisation because also we understand that poverty impacts women in many different ways, including health. So over 50% of the women we work with have long-term health conditions. We know that women carry the biggest burden of poverty. We know that globally, and we know that the pandemic impacted women much harder. And also we know that it set gender equality back a number of decades. And it all feels really overwhelming right now. But I really like the starfish story. And for that, we made a difference to those women. And that woman. And that one. And those. Our development over the next 18 months is to get the Women's Centre up and running, so that the women left behind have a safe place to learn and pursue their dreams. Because when we leave women in poverty, we're harming everyone. When people aren't allowed to use their skills, we're harming all of us. And if you think it seems really hard to, almost impossible, to address systemic inequalities, I've got a little story to tell you. So back in 2014, the government backed a plan to increase women's representation on FTSE 100 boards by 25% in 4 years. A massive task with a lot of resistance. But not only did they do it, they did it in 3 years. So I think if we can do that, we can also turn our attention to addressing the situation for lowest paid women, right? Because we can't claim gender equality while we leave so many women trapped in poverty. And if we remember that when we do this, when we invest in women, it's communities, our communities, and future generations that benefit. That's me done.
Thank you so much, Jane. And I think we all remember that this is a city that shouldn't and won't leave anyone behind. So thank you.
Hi, Hi, so I'm Sebastian Chatterjee and I'm the Managing Director at 1SC Media, which is a digital media agency that primarily operates within the Northwest. And I'm also a sixth form student at Lancaster Royal Grammar School, which is just up the road from here. So I'm 17 at the moment and I started my business last year in lockdown once we got told our GCSEs were cancelled. So I did what any natural 16-year-old at the time would do and start a business. So back then, obviously that wasn't actually what I did, but I got very bored. So we just got told our GCSEs were cancelled and our Leavers Day was just the day after we got told it would be cancelled. So straight into lockdown. So I started tinkering with different things and I was like, right, what do I actually enjoy doing? So our teachers told us we could revise for A-level, we should possibly look into what we might be doing later, but no one's ever going to do that. So I thought, what do I actually enjoy doing? And it was designing. So I decided that I wanted to start doing web design. So originally it just started from friends of friends and that sort of thing. And then once they started telling more people, it started growing from there. So I registered as a sole trader once I reached over £1,000. I had no clue about tax at that point in time. Now I'm currently still scared of HMRC. That's not changed. But back then I decided that I wanted to do something different. So from there, it started just being referrals. Every single client we had was just from someone else telling someone else. There was never anything different. And then at the end of August, going into September, I was like, right, this is getting serious now. Need to start hiring staff. So at that point, we started hiring different staff and then just went from web design originally and branched out into a few different specialties. So at the moment, our primary contribution is web design, but we also do social media management, SEO and that sort of thing. So I registered the business as a limited company in December and it really grew from there. So I started hiring staff at the end of August, September, but in December it really started getting serious. And then just recently I got my letter from HMRC. Oh, time to fill in your self-assessment tax return. Fear. So then it starts putting it into a bit of context that this is something that people need to deal with. As a business owner, it's something that's always there in the back of your mind, but it's not something that you think about first. But you always know that you're going to need to do it at some point. But it seems to be that there's always challenges from leaving school in sixth form and going straight into a business, because it's very rare that people do that. People tend to go on to doing a degree or then go into business, or maybe work for somewhere else and then go into business. It doesn't usually seem to be everyone's first port of call. But personally, from my experience, I enjoy it. So if you look at some figures, the digital media industry in the UK is worth over £70 billion this year. And less than 64% of businesses in the UK have a website. And over 70% of people look for a business's website before they actually buy anything from them. So we do see a discrepancy here. So my main aim as a business owner is to try and get more people online. And that's the idea behind it. It's to actually help other businesses grow like I did and also let them have like a bright future, because they were moving into a more digital age. So just from lockdown, we can see that more and more people are using things such as Microsoft Teams, Skype, Zoom, different interfaces that let you connect with other people. We're moving more meetings online. We're also going to interact with people differently. So now, even in here, you can see that we're all socially distanced. So we're interacting with people in a completely different way. So the idea is that we need to adapt for this change in the future. So at the moment, one of my other aims that I saw, so with school, we're doing a Young Enterprise competition too. And one of the things that we saw is that there's a huge UK STEM skills gap. Over 80% of businesses find it difficult to find staff that fulfill their needs. And this has cost the UK over £1.5 billion every year in just recruiting costs. So we can see there's a huge discrepancy here. So on top of just trying to make money as a business, because obviously you have to look at your overheads, you have to look at your profits, and that at the end of the day, if you're not making profit, you're not going to be able to run very long. But one of the things that you also want to make sure is that you are actually helping your staff like develop their skills. You want to make sure that they're employable in the future. And another thing that we see is that, like was said before by someone else, you can see that a lot of charities are being left behind because there's a lot of support for businesses, but not enough for charities that are trying to make an impact to the world. So one of the things that we started doing recently, we started doing charity projects. So mainly web design because, like I said before, they do look at charities are being helped. So people are donating, but that's to do the work. So if it's water aid, they're being donated to give people water. But no one's actually looking at what it takes to run the charity. So if you, like we said before, properties, rentals, even websites and things, they are expensive. And if it's a startup charity, to be able to actually have an impact, they need some form of presence. Otherwise, how will people ever know about them? So one of the things that we started doing recently is working with more and more charities to have a bigger impact. So we've now completed over £20,000 of charity projects completely for free. And at the moment, we're working with Lancaster Slavery Family Trees Project to sort of build more awareness about Lancaster's history within the slave trade and different things like that. So things that people should know about but don't yet. We want to let them have an impact. So if you don't take anything from this, if any of you ever want to help out with anything like that, please do get in touch and we'll see what you can do. But yeah, that's all for me. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks. Welcome back for the final session of Lightening Talks, and then the final wrap up of Array Festival 2021. So I'm going to now pass over Michael Hallam.
Thank you, Dan. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say a little bit about the plastic bottle top project. I really like this project, not least because it allows me to come up with some really, really awful puns. So I might sprinkle a few of those into this presentation. So for anybody who spots them all, there'll be a top prize. So since August, I've started collecting these things. And it's hats off to the first Array Festival, actually, because last year, Martin Paley from Precious Plastic Lancaster did a tour of his plastic manufacturing micro workshop. And he said, plastic bottle tops are a really good thing, a really good feedstock for us. So I got in contact with him and I said, I'll start collecting them for you. And it's kind of grown like Topsy. So that didn't work that way. Okay, there we go. So starting with what is it? What's magic about the humble bottle top? Well, for a start, if you collect enough of them, you can make real things out of them, like this amazing, super sturdy plant pot, which is made from Lancaster citizens' very own milk bottle tops. So the way it works is quite simple, and that is kind of like what makes this project makes me really excited about this, because it's a very simple thing to explain to people. You just collect plastic bottle tops, take them along to a drop-off point, and at the moment there are 4 with these amazing local independent retailers. If you don't recognise them, we've got the Assembly Rooms, Beachbird on Morecambe Prom, Northern Yarn in just off China Street, King Street, and Single Step. And there are more others popping up. So you take it there, they've got drop-off caddies. They find their way to me, I go and collect them, and then I sort them. I reverse entropy by taking this random jumper, not sure, there we go. Okay, Dan, I need your help because this has just kind of gone all over the place. And I've broken the screen. Oh, I've seriously broken the screen. All right, and then if I do that, I've broken it again. Oh, is it happening up there? Well, I'm just going to keep talking. There we go. So, let's just row back a bit. So the Plastic Bottle Top Project's actually collaboration between the Ethical Small Traders Association, Precious Plastic Lancaster, and my own consultancy, the Small Green Consultancy. Look at that, it's fantastic. So basically we are reversing entropy. So we're taking this mix of plastic bottle tops, which have all been cleaned, turning it into new feedstock and creating new things with them. And I'm just going to do that for that. Yeah, there we go. So it's a very simple circular process. However, when people ask me what the Ethical Small Traders Association, for example, I say, well, it's this vast ecosystem of local businesses that are all collaborating, working together in various sectors. There's all this kind of stuff. Actually, we need to sort of book a half day so I can give you a seminar on how it all hangs together. And it's like, okay, right. But if I say, explain the plastic bottle top project, it's really easy and it's really tangible, because it's just, you collect your bottle tops, you take them to an independent retailer, they get sorted, they get turned, precious plastic turns them into new stuff, and we create a nice circular economy of local plastic, and that's plastic that's not going into the sea to kill it. Simple. However, when it starts to operate, really interesting things happen, because this is all about this is the start of creating a local circular economy of stuff. And the idea here is that we reach a point where we're basically getting the community to collect raw materials to order as feedstock for local remanufacturing businesses. And so this is a start of, I didn't want that to go away, but thank you. So if I just come over here, the way this works is, and I'm not a programmer, but I've adopted certain programming principles. One is noughts and zeros. So this whole system is based on noughts and zeros. So a nought is something that does something. It's a little functional unit, and a one, noughts and zeros, noughts and ones, isn't it? That's why I'm not a programmer. The one is the connection between them. So it's the journey you take to transform what happens at a functional point to get to another functional point. So functional point 1 is the community. Functional point 2 is the bottle top, collect those. 3, the caddy, take them to the caddy. 4, they're all getting sorted. 5, you go to precious plastic. 6, they get turned into plant pots. However, there are add-ons. Each one of these nodes is a potential spur for other things to happen in the connected local economy of stuff. So there's a spur here because it's increasing footfall and the profile of some of the local independents that desperately need support, because they do and they're brilliant. Another spur is it's creating. There's a Facebook group currently with about 350 people, all of whom seem to be collecting bottle tops. So it's actually creating a community of people who don't think this is an incredibly nerdy thing to do. Well, maybe it is, but who cares? You know, and there are spurs off that, which one of the spurs is I sort of encourage people to tell me how many they've collected each month, and I put up a picture to show my collection, and then other people start. So now everybody does a picture and they arrange them, and now they're turning into fishers and steam engines and all kinds of things. People are using them to create art and posting all that. So all those kind of things. Another thing about this is it's about total transparency of the system. So it's creating a lot of data. So all the data is fed back throughout the system. So one piece of data is I have a colour chart of 18 different colours that the tops get separated into. And what that does for precious plastic, it provides a unique feedstock. Because have you ever wondered why most things that are made out of recycled plastic are either brown, grey or black? And that's because, it's a very expensive process to colour sort. And when you mix them together, those are the colours you end up with. So by colour sorting, they're getting 18 different unique colour streams, which allows them to create products which are quite exciting and innovative. It gives them a USP. So that's another little spur. That's 2 spurs off there. Another spur is connecting with the local business community, because I probably haven't put this slide in, but we've created, went to the local business community and said, we need some sponsorship for this project. So how about when we get to the point of we've got 25,000 bottle tops, you donate £250 to the project. And that will be good for your CSR. That'll be money that you're actually practically investing in the local circular economy, the local community economy. And you'll be able to sort of shout about that. But then I took it a stage further because Esther, all three of those organisations are very, very keen on supporting the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, and we've heard several businesses that's here doing that as well, and organisations. However, Esther is a community interest company. It's not a charity, and we don't want to be a charity because we want the money has to be generated within the local community. If we had a local community of if we had a local business community that collectively had a turnover of £2 billion, and they bought 50% of their supplies from other businesses in the local community, then we would have a turnover of 2 billion. If they spent 66% with local suppliers, that turnover would go up to 3 billion. So we don't actually have a liquidity problem because basically we don't understand what money is and how it works. It's the processes of connection that generate wealth. So now what we're doing is Esther's created its own unique set of badges, sustainability badges, which it's basically selling to businesses at £50 each. And that money is then invested into the local economy, the local circular economy. Half of that money is actually going to go on the addressing the causes of local poverty side of the equation, and half is going to go on the economy of stuff. And on the local poverty side, that money is going to be passed on, and we're going to keep track of it, and we're going to give feedback to everybody about how it's doing. That's about 5 minutes, probably about 10, 15 minutes. I've totally lost track of time. I'm done.
Thanks, Michael. For those who've been keeping an eye, that's an incredible project. And to just go from something that was an idea and a concept to all that work, but actually what that means and changing behaviours of people has just been incredible. So congratulations, Michael. Nathan, please.
Okay, hello, my name's Nathan. I'm the Managing Director of the Speaker Media Limited, and as you can probably guess from the screen, I'm going to be talking to you about politics. Now, not the most interesting topic, but it is important. And politics impacts all of us, and I think the last year has demonstrated that quite well. We've lived under national lockdowns, local lockdowns, through tiers of restrictions, and quite literal tiers, as we've been separated from friends, family, loved ones. So however you look at it, politics has an important role in all our lives, and even before the pandemic, that was the case. Whether it's the aftermath of Brexit, the climate emergency, lots of different things related to politics. And even on a daily basis, the decisions that people in politics make are really important for how we live our lives. Whether it's things like investment into economic development, transport connectivity, education, equality, there's loads of different debates. The fact that we're standing in this building today there will have been debates and talks in politics. The fact that I'm standing here talking to you at 4:01 p.m. is even political in itself. Lots of places don't have daylight saving time. So politics is really important, and we live in a democracy where people can have their say on things. So it's really important that people feel able to do that. But there's a problem with this. Politics can quite easily become very confusing. If I said to most people on the street, what does it mean when Parliament's been prorogued? Or what does the European Union actually do? despite the fact we've had referendum on it. A lot of people wouldn't actually know what voting system do we have. It's really complicated politics. And sort of jargonated reporting, biased coverage, they don't help either. So back in 2018, myself and a group of fellow students looked at this and said, there's not really anything out there that makes politics and political news sort of accessible and understandable to the wider public, but particularly young people. Young people are the leaders of the next generation, and as we've sort of seen today over this week and in sort of recent events, especially linked to the climate emergency, young leaders today are having a massive role in politics as well. So on March the 1st, 2018, the Speaker launched at speakerpolitics.co.uk, and our sort of aim around that, the core aims were to deliver political news in an understandable, impartial way, let people understand politics. And we launched with some news-based content, some opinion-based content, and within sort of a few months, it became quite clear sort of the desire and the need for the type of coverage we were providing. Back in 2018, it was sort of the times of Brexit, and politics was sort of a constant pantomime. If people remember the House of Commons on a Wednesday lunchtime for Prime Minister's questions, it seemed much more like a theatre than sort of a political chamber at points. But really important decisions were still being made, and the media has a really important role to sort of educate people about politics and what's actually going on. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that journalists and other people in the media like myself always know what's going on, because that's not the case. And quite often the politicians don't seem to know either. But we have to try and let people understand so they can form their own viewpoint around politics. And I think what has been really important for the Speaker is the fact that we're impartial. We're not pushing our own agenda. We're letting people make up their own mind. So since launching in 2018, the Speaker's just grown from strength to strength. And now we're the Speaker Media Limited. So we cover lots more topics. We've got an expanding team, and over the last year with the coronavirus pandemic, as you can imagine, it's been quite busy. The sort of a lot of people before the pandemic didn't really care too much for politics, perhaps weren't that interested. And then back in sort of March, April of last year, the sort of daily Downing Street news conferences became almost like a family tradition for a lot of families to go downstairs and watch them and hope for some good news and try and find out what was going on. And the media has had an important role to try and tell people why they've all been locked inside. And the Speaker's really grown throughout the last year with that. We've played roles in educating young people, our young audiences, but also the wider public about how politics is working, how it's impacting them, and how the decisions are being made, trying to distinguish the science and the politics, and helping people get a grasp of what's going on. Myself, I've been involved in countless press conferences with ministers over the last year, questioning them and getting answers, whether it be on mental health restrictions. There's lots of really important topics that the media can help people understand. And we've also had really interesting conversations with scientists as well. Just before Christmas, I got woken up and invited to speak to scientists about new variants of COVID. And I didn't study science any longer than I had to. So it was a little bit of a challenge when I had lots of microbiologists trying to tell me about the structure of coronaviruses, but we managed to get coverage out to the public and help people understand why their Christmas had unfortunately been cancelled. And as we sort of move forward now, coming out of the pandemic, although we're coming out of restrictions here, around the world, the pandemic is obviously still having a really devastating effect. And there's lots of things in politics, both related to health restrictions and also looking at the recovery, how we actually recover from the pandemic. There's lots of different debates for us to look at, lots of different questions to ask. Whether it's on, do we actually work in an office anymore? Do we work from home? How do we try and sort of recover from all the lost learning time in schools? So what I'm really passionate about and what the speaker is driving, our mission is to inspire the next generation in politics. And from that, we want to get to a point where young people and eventually the wider public are able to understand politics, have their say, much more political education in the UK and around the world. And through our new education services, the speaker's doing that through working with schools, educational charities, rolling out resources, training, and our education portal to try and let people know about politics in ways that are both informative but also engaging, fun and interesting, because politics can be complicated. It can be boring at times, but what's really important to understand is just the importance of politics, how it impacts all our lives. And my challenge to everyone watching would be to have a think about what you've done today, how politics is somehow related to that. And I promise you there will be a lot more than you may first think of. Thank you for listening.
Incredible, Nathan was telling me a couple of weeks ago that during the US elections, the speaker online had hits from every single state in the United States. I think that's right. Is it every state in the?
Yeah, that is correct. So we covered the US election, and we had audiences across the UK look at that, and also in every state of America. We now reach 130 different countries around the world with our coverage. There really is the interest and need for impartial political coverage.
Incredible. And just again, you know, so many of us have been in business for so long, and we've had Nathan, Rachel, Subhash, the next generation of entrepreneurs and innovators who are just doing an incredible job. What a city we've got. Thanks very much. A round of applause again for Nathan. Okay, so our final speaker then is a friend of ours from Fraser House, and I'd like to invite forward now Xavier from one of City Region's most exciting growing businesses, and I'm sure Xavier will come and tell you about the Case to Answer story.
Hi, thanks Dan. I would like to explain you a little bit about Case to Answer, what our journey is and what we're trying to achieve, and with our wider group of companies. We're working on the legal sector, and it's not the most exciting market, and it's not the most sexy type of activity product to be involved. But what we're trying to do is simply to bring simplicity and to bring solutions. We are all sooner or later users of legal services for different reasons. Traditionally, law firms, they are not the most engaging businesses, and they are difficult to build relationships with. So what we're trying to do is to find solutions to the consumer, to the client, and make things as simple as possible. And this is not our task. It's about what the client needs and what the client is looking for. And typically, when you go to a lawyer, to a legal service provider, we don't go to be impressed. We don't want to be patronized. We don't want to be top down. What we want to find is a solution to our problems, simply. We don't really know what it's called. We don't know what the legal background is, what the precedent is. What we're looking for is a solution, is peace of mind. And what we're trying to do is to find the cheapest, the fastest, the most efficient way to do that. So we're looking at technology as an enabler. We're not looking at technology as the end of it, as the solution. We're using technology as much or as little as we need to help us to find that solution. Case Ones started towards the end of 2019, and the core proposition, the core message was about finding a way to help solicitors, to help clients, and provide access to justice. The traditional law firm model is incredibly expensive and basically promotes inefficiency. The longer it takes to achieve something, the more you can charge the client. Therefore, what is the benefit of to be better, faster, more efficient? So we're trying to break that, and we're trying to be, in a sense, innovators and disruptors, and find a way to incentivize efficiency, providing the tools that allows the law firms and the legal services providers to achieve an outcome in the fastest possible way for the client, and putting the client at the center of what we do. Most of you have probably, or some of you have bought a house, maybe got divorced, got an accident, lots of different legal needs. Traditionally, what happens is we interact with a lawyer as a one problem, as a transaction, and that's it. The law firms don't build relationships. They are not with you for the long haul. And that is something that fundamentally we're trying to change. We're trying to enable a relationship in which we can facilitate an ongoing service, to be there when the client needs us at different points on the life or different circumstances. And that is quite different change of focus in what law firms are doing or have done traditionally. They don't really care about what's going to happen afterwards. So through our group, that's what we're trying to achieve. So Gravitas, for instance, is about providing recalculations, quantum assessment. What is the loss to the client? We specialize heavily in financial mis-selling. I'm sure you have heard to death and just sick to hear about the PPI scandal that has been going on for the last 10 years. There's been billions and billions of compensation. As incredible as it seems, that is not finished. Lots and lots of clients have not achieved redress. Huge amount of cases has been undersettled. The lenders has provided inaccurate calculations. You might say that's been done by accident, might see by inefficient, but I'm a bit cynical. So I think there's a more systematic approach to the calculations. Our aim is to deconstruct and enable the solicitors to find exactly how much the client has lost. And that's what we do principally through Gravitas. Total is about building that relationship with the client, being there for different times, for different stages on their life, on different needs, on any kind of legal challenge they might encounter, and facilitate that relationship. It's very, very difficult to get engagement with law firm. Very difficult. If I ask you, do you know any legal brand, you're probably going to struggle to say, oh, they are the market leaders, or who is the Virgin, who is the Amazon, who is the Facebook of the law firms. There is not a brand recognition. there is no engagement. And that is part of our challenge. And it's not a small challenge, but that's what we're aiming to do. So far, super exciting journey. Being here in Fraser House with like-minded people that they're trying to innovate, to change, to use technology is amazing. It's a great space, and we are loving it. We started just two of us, September 2019. We have a team now is in excess of 40 of us, growing every month, recruiting people, joining really good talent, and enjoying the journey of developing our team and make ourselves better as we go along and grow with the team here. And you know, I live in Lancaster for 20 years, and I think it's a phenomenal place to live and to work. And I think it's our time that we really embrace the opportunities that we have. And there's no need to go to London. Okay, London can come to us. It's our time. So thanks for your time.
Xavier, absolutely incredible. Guys, keep an eye on Case to Answer. This is a company that's definitely going somewhere, and we're excited to have them in here. So keep watch out for Xavier and his team and Andy, and plenty to come from them. So thanks very much. Thank you.